All right, train services to Ga-Rankuwa, Mabopane and Soshanguve have been suspended. This follows that head-on train collision that we saw this morning.
Emergency services have confirmed that 3 people have died, although that figure could change. A staggering 300 were hurt.
An inquest into this accident has been opened. Blade Nzimande, Minister of Transport, is briefing the media right now. Let's take you live to that briefing.
In fact, I am personally outraged, I would like to put it that way, that we can't every time be having the repeat of the same problems. You know? And we are saying, as government, we have to bring this to an end. Let me tell you that I think the first thing management is to account to us, frankly, of PRASA, as to how come we are spending so much money on security, yet we continue having this cable theft. We are not saying that the criminals must get away with murder, but we are spending such a lot of money and it looks like it's business as usual. These security companies have been taking hundreds of millions of rands from our metro rail, but there isn't a big difference that is seen. Cape Town, it was the same story. Cameras were supposed to be put in, they have not been working for years. I am demanding accountability this time. I've said to the chair of the board, I want an answer within the next few days as to what action is being taken to deal with security. Of course, we have to engage communities so that communities are our partners. They are able often to help us to manage the situation and even to help us deal with theft and all that. But it is very important that from now onwards, no security company must get a tender from PRASA if it is not able to demonstrate what it has done in order to be able to deal with this. Otherwise, we turn PRASA into an ATM. I'm sorry. And it's not just an ATM, but it's people's lives. And it's ordinary working class people who possibly have lost breadwinners today because of this continuing thing. As I say, we do need a multi-pronged strategy, but there must be accountability at the end of the day. That is what I would like to see happening. I would like to see an explanation, and also I would like to see the rail regulator going very deep into this. Maybe, Chair and MEC, it's time also that we as a department just actually find a way of looking comprehensively into rail safety in this country. The regulator has got its role, but we might have to look at the whole issue of safety of metro rail and what actually needs to be done and go to the bottom of this.
Minister, was cable theft the cause of this accident?
That's the immediate cause, yes. The cable theft, which leads to the fact that then our signaling systems are not working, and then we are actually then using manual authorizations of the trains. Like today, clearly there must have been a miscommunication somewhere, and we are saying we must deal with those things when we are having this situation. But what I wouldn't like is to put the blame on ordinary workers. They can't be the ones who are always taking the blame, and then the people who are supposed to account are not actually accounting. It's very important that we look at the security. My biggest worry, as I say, the monies that we are spending on security in PRASA, how do we really account for that? We know also, the regional manager was telling me now that this stretch, I don't know from where to where, is one of the known problematic stretches. Why can't we devise ways and means to try and actually protect this in a particular way if we are really serious? It really just can't be business as usual, that people are just going to be chowing government money and yet people are being killed like this. It must just come to an end.
Minister Patricia Passagia from the SABC. Cable theft, as you are mentioning, it seems to be the preliminary indication. Can we get a clear indication, perhaps, where exactly were the cables stolen, which point, when, so we have an indication what it is that we are talking about here, if it is cable theft that might be the preliminary indication?
Well, I haven't got that detailed briefing. That is the briefing that I would like to have within the next few days. I have asked the rail regulator within the next few days to actually give me a preliminary report. Together with PRASA, I need to get a preliminary report which then would actually point out the exact spot, because there are still also investigations that are ongoing. The very immediate indication now is that cable theft is actually the problem. But you are right to ask that question, because we need to know exactly how did that happen, so that we are able to know for the purposes of trying to deal with this matter differently in future.
Minister, last year, Minister Pule from Open News, last year the North Gauteng High Court ruled that PRASA should be in regulation with safety measures. What does this say of safety measures? Because I spoke to some of the affected victims earlier on, and they're saying this has become an ongoing problem. What does this say about safety measures, Minister?
Well, as I've said, that clearly there is a challenge, there is a huge gap about our safety measures. That's not saying we're condoning the criminals who may be stealing copper and other things, but it's something that just needs to be elevated now. And I need answers. Who is actually having these tenders for security here? What have they committed to? What is the deal saying about? Because if you have got an arrangement with PRASA, you must know that it's not just your normal place where you are just maybe looking at buildings and so on. Maybe there are hardly any problems once in a while. This is just too much. And we know the areas that are a problem. And what is it that we put down in order to guarantee that those things are able to be dealt with? It is a serious matter. Rail security is really a very serious matter. We agree. I agree we need a comprehensive approach. That will involve the police, that will involve PRASA security, that will have to involve communities and so on. But people who are playing particular roles in their responsibilities must account, including security. Can't just say we're going to go to communities and then not attend to the fact that, yes, we have to go to communities, but have you been doing enough as security to be able to do this? In this country we are in these problems, and some of the problems we've had because we've had no accountability. We have got state-owned companies being looted, being skinned, and these are the products of it, The people who is suffering is ordinary working class people who are getting killed and getting injured. That is why that if we are to actually stop this thing, we need to go to the bottom of it. We just cannot continue like this.
Once again from Open News, how much are the costs? How much are we looking at here?
Well, in the immediate evaluation that has been done now, just for today, is 21 million rands. That's 21 million rands going down the drain. Yet we've got huge challenges that we have as PRASA in terms of putting in infrastructure that is actually needed to run a much safer and a much faster train service.
Well, Linda Gutle from ENCA, perhaps if I can chip in there. We shouldn't shy away, Minister, from the fact that we have a railway service provider like a Metro Rail that has incidents before. And as much as we say that investigations are being done and that theft might be the reason why this has happened, but we have incidents where it was not theft, and in fact it was the fact that it is not in fact complying with the regulation, the railway safety regulator. And in fact, if I can just give an example, the fact that they have a pending case that is actually taking place, it means that there is a problem in terms of the fact that they do not meet the regulatory standards of the regulator. But what I'm saying is, let us not shy away from that, Minister. What are we saying now as the government? Are we saying that in fact Metro Rail should be allowed to continue even tomorrow to commute people?
We have not said that the sole problem, or maybe even the origins of the problem, is theft. Yes, theft is playing a very important role, but we need to look at the totality of the problem. One of the things I had to deal with when I was appointed minister early last year, was the fact that PRASA was in court, being claimed by all and everybody that PRASA is owing us this or that. Most of those cases we found out, in fact, that that was not the case. So all those are actually part of the problem. In other words, we must just play no games when it comes to security.
Yes.
We must have no chances. We must have people to actually clearly commit. We are not saying we must break the law, but there is no reason to continue with a security company that just gets away with this. And we are the ones who come here having got to come and explain when they are actually not here and they are nicely visiting the bank every month to actually get money without doing anything. That is why I am saying, the long and short of what I'm saying, we want a full investigation from all angles. Management has got to account. We want the rail regulator to actually do its job. Of course, we do need to find mechanisms. What I had said before, in terms of from PRASA as well as with the rail regulator, we need to find a way of dealing with the issue of safety, ideally cooperatively, so that the rail regulator doesn't only act when there is a problem, for instance, or it doesn't act like a traffic cop. Traffic cops is something separate. We need them to act in those ways sometimes on our roads. But we need a cooperative way to say, what is it that has actually been done? For instance, they have made recommendations to PRASA to say, here are the gaps and what is it that needs to be done. I want also, when I get a report, to be able to get that, to say, what have you done in terms of all this? We just cannot allow this thing to happen, without accountability. That is what we are saying. We need people to account.
Sorry, Minister, but will it be a responsible decision to continue to allow...
As Transport Minister Nzimande talking about yet another horror rail crash in South Africa. 3 people dead, hundreds injured, saying there will be a full-scale investigation, but saying that it is already linked to cable theft. That's something that has to go away, but saying that won't be an excuse. There'll be an investigation looking at all angles. Metro Rail management, he says, must account.